Hey, hello everybody. Today, on this wonderful day, we are going to talk about absolute value and integer operations. Okay, how we use absolute value while we're doing integer operations. It's going to be a rockin' good time. I absolutely value this lesson. Hey, what did the cheerful light bulb say to the sad light bulb? Bruh, you need to lighten up. You're welcome. You are welcome. Lighten up, light bulb joke. All right, so here we go. So today we're going to work on simplifying expressions, which is what's an expression? It's basically a math kind of situation with no equal sign. So it's one side of an equation, really. It's an expression. These will contain absolute value symbols, so that we have to solve with absolute value and understanding how that works within order of operations. We're going to only be using two integers. We're going to have all the fun. All right, so let's take a look at this first. Let's talk a little math lingo. Look at this situation here. Absolute value. What does it mean? All right, it simply means that absolute value is the distance between the number and zero on a number line. So if you look at absolute value of 4 right there, so we got absolute value of 4. How far away is 4 away from 0? Well, it's 4 away. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. What about the absolute value of negative 3? Oh, that's a negative 1 over here. So that's going to be negative 3. No, no, no. The absolute value of negative 3 means that negative 3 is 1, 3 away from 0. So it's how far are we away from 0? So we can look at that in a couple different situations and say, look at this house, okay? This house is right in the middle, and the distance from house is 1 mile, okay? So if my house is right here and I started walking this way, and I ended right there, what's my absolute value from the house? 1 mile, okay? What if I started walking this way? How far am I away from the house? I'm 1 mile. Absolute value means the distance from the beginning or the distance from 0. Okay, and if you look at this guy right here, Scuba Steve's rocking it in the ocean right now. Well, here is 0, right? 0 is sea level right there. Okay, and Scuba Steve is way down here. He is located at 18 feet below 0. So to solve that problem, if we wrote it down, it would say, well, we want to know how far away is from 0. So we say, what is the absolute value of negative 18? How far away from 0 is he? Well, that would be 18. He is 18 away from 0. Good work. All right, so that's some like just catching up and making sure we understand the absolute value. It's the math concept that tells us how far we are away from 0. Okay. Now, order of operation applies to the absolute value bars. You treat them like any other groupings, okay? So some more lingo. Remember that order of operations thing, GIMDAs? If not, let's review. Some of you may say PEMDAs. I like to say GIMDAs because it's a grouping. Absolute bar is grouping something inside, parentheses, group something inside, brackets, group something inside. So what does GIMDAs stand for? Well, G stands for groupings. E stands for exponents. All right, so we do these things first. Anything inside of the groupings. These things second. Any exponents or square roots or anything like that. And then I put multiplication and divide beside each other because we don't do multiplication first and then dividing. We do whichever one we see first, like we were reading a book. Whichever one we come to first. Let's say it was division, we do that first. And then we would, if there was another section in there was multiplication, we'd do that. And that, so this would be the third set of things we do, the multiplication and division section. And then finally, we finish up with any addition and subtraction under that same rule, whichever one I see first, and on rolling. So that's order of operations. Should have a pretty good understanding of that from previous lessons. If not, this is your little review. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. What happens to an absolute value if there's a negative sign on the outside of the absolute value? So the ones that I showed you before, like if we had the absolute value of negative 4, we're just asking, oops, that should not be curved. That should simply be straight up and down. Okay. What is the absolute value of negative 4? So how far is negative 4 away from 0? That would be 4, right? This one tells us what is the absolute value of negative 3, and then I want the opposite of that answer. So what is the absolute value of negative 3? It's 3. What is the opposite of negative of 3? Well, it takes it back to negative 3. So it's like kind of a two-step problem. Find the absolute value, and then tell me the opposite. Okay? So let's take a look at here. Now, in this scenario, we have two different types today that we're going to work with. We're going to see operations that are inside the absolute value bar. So if it's inside, so everything we're trying to solve is inside the absolute value bars, just go ahead and solve it and then do the absolute value. So like GIMDAS tells us to do whatever's in the groupings. All right, so this one would be, what is -3 plus 4? Okay, so if I had -3 and I gained 4, then my answer would be 1. But I'm still wanting to know, because I haven't solved the absolute value part. So what is the absolute value of 1? Well, the absolute value of 1 is 1. Okay, that's how you solve that one. This one is, what is the absolute value of 12 divided by -3? So let's do what's inside 12 divided by -3. Okay, so we're going to go, what is 12 divided by -3? Well, 12 divided by -3 would be 4, but we want, it's a positive divided by a negative. So it would be -4. So now we have the opposite of -4, right? Because I just brought the bars down and I brought that guy down. What's the absolute value of -4? It's 4. Okay, and what's the opposite of 4? -4. And there's our answer to that one. Okay, now this next one here, we have 3 times -4. So what is 3 groups of -4? -4, -8, -12. So we have -12, but we have not done the absolute value part. What is the absolute value of -12? It is 12. Good job. Now we want the opposite of the absolute value of -3 minus 4. All right, so let's just break that down. What is -3 minus 4 more? Well, if you just did a whole integer operation unit, you would know that -3 minus 4 gives us -7, okay? And we want the opposite of the absolute value of -7. What is the absolute value of -7? It is 7. What is the opposite of 7? -7. So just solve what's inside, give the absolute value, and then pay attention. Pay attention to see if you have any of these guys on the outside, because then it's just going to be the opposite of whatever the absolute value is. Okay. All right. Well, let's see something else here. Let's check out something else. So scenario 2 says we have the absolute value bars on the outside. Okay, absolute value bars on the outside. Okay, so some are inside, some are outside. So remember GIMDAS. So we do groupings first. And right here, we need to solve the absolute value of -3. What is the absolute value of -3? Well, it's 3. So I solve it, and then I bring everything else down. And then I just go from there. What's 3 plus 4? Oh, yeah, Jack. It is 7. Good job. What about this next one? Absolute value of -16 over 4. Well, let's do the grouping first. What is the absolute value of -16? Well, the absolute value of -16 is 16. We bring everything else over. And what is 16 broken into 4 groups or divided by 4? It is 4. Okay, so the absolute value of 16 divided by 4, 16 divided by 4 equals good. All right, do another one. You guys are crushing it. 22 minus the absolute value of 18. What's the absolute value of 18? Let's not word it that way. How far is 18 from 0? It is 18 away, okay? So bring everything else down. 22 minus 18. What is 22 minus 18? 4. Nailed it. All right, so 22 minus 18 is 4. Good job. Okay, I think you guys got it. This isn't a terribly hard concept. You've already worked on absolute value before in the past. You've got a little bit of understanding of order operations. You just got to make sure you're paying attention to when do I do it. If all inside the bracket, do it all, then do the absolute value. If they're separated, solve the absolute value of that one thing, and then just do your normal integer operation. Do you guys know what dogs do when they're tired of watching Netflix? Yep, they just simply press pause. You gotta know the paws are like the paws that a dog has. Come on. See you guys later.